You've always sensed it, haven't you? A quiet fracture running through the world, like reality itself is wearing a mask. People speak, but something beneath their words whispers louder. Rooms buzz with unseen tension, smiles feel staged, and somehow you catch it all. Others call it overthinking. You know it as truth unspoken. There is a reason you see the cracks in the illusion, a reason you walk through life feeling both deeply connected and strangely alone. You're not imagining it, you're not broken, you're tuned to frequencies others don't notice, pulled by meanings they've been conditioned to ignore. And what if that sensitivity, what once felt like a curse, was your calling all along? You've always felt slightly apart from the rhythm others seem to dance to, watching life rather than moving blindly through it. In the quiet space between a question and its answer, you hear something else. In the gap between a smile and a sigh, you notice the weight someone's trying to hide. This is not coincidence. It's not a flaw in your wiring. It's perception, spiritual perception, a gift that allows you to see what others dismiss. You're not just witnessing the world as it appears. You're witnessing it as it is, beneath the masks, beyond the noise, within the soul's subtle trembling. This kind of sight isn't trained through education or sharpened through logic. It comes from being attuned to something higher, an inner alignment with what is unseen but deeply true. Where others see only the surface of life, you witness the fractures, the silences, the longing that floats behind every polished sentence. This isn't about being observant, it's about being spiritually open, as if some layer of separation between the physical and the metaphysical has worn thin in you, and now the truth bleeds through everything. And because of that, you often feel worlds apart from those around you. You sense when someone's words don't match their energy. You catch the hesitation in their laugh, the tension in their posture, the disconnect between what they say they want and what their soul is crying out for. You don't just hear people, you read them. And this ability, while powerful, is often lonely, because people don't like being seen beyond the version of themselves they've carefully curated. When you see through illusion, you risk becoming the outsider in a world built on it. But this perception isn't here to isolate you. It's here to awaken something deeper, to remind you that seeing clearly is the first step toward being clear. When you recognize the false, you're also recognizing what's real underneath it. You were never meant to accept surface-level existence as truth. You were meant to pierce it, to call others gently back to their own soul by daring to see through the veil. The spiritual meaning behind seeing what others don't is this: you are here to witness the world not for what it shows, but for what it hides, and in doing so, you call truth back into the light. When you see through the surface, you don't just observe the truth, you begin to feel it. The deeper your perception becomes, the more your being opens, like a vessel quietly collecting every drop of unspoken emotion around you. This is where the gift sharpens, because your vision isn't limited to your eyes, it flows through your entire nervous system. You don't just see sadness behind someone's smile, you carry it. And this too is part of the spiritual meaning behind seeing what others don't. Your soul is a tuning fork, vibrating with the frequencies others deny, ignore, or suppress. There are days when fatigue comes suddenly, like a wave crashing over your chest. Your body feels heavy, your thoughts clouded. You replay conversations that didn't seem significant, wondering why they linger like smoke. Often, it's not what was said that affects you, but what wasn't. The emotions others repress don't disappear, they drift, and because you're open, they find you. Without trying, without asking, you begin to absorb what was never yours to carry. You become a silent witness to other people's storms, sometimes even their shelter, without them ever realizing it. This is why solitude feels holy to you, not because you dislike people, but because their energies cling to you like fog on skin. You need silence not just to rest, but to return, to sort through what belongs to you and what slipped in unnoticed. Alone, You begin to release what you unknowingly took on. You remember your own emotional voice beneath the chorus of others. And in that remembering, clarity begins to return, not just mental but spiritual. Space opens up again for your own presence to settle. But this burden of energetic absorption can become seductive. When you're so used to feeling others, it can be easier to live in their emotional landscape than face your own. Helping others, holding them, healing what they cannot articulate, it can become an identity, a refuge from your own unresolved pain. And yet, the truth remains. You can only hold space for others when you've created it within yourself. If you're always tuned outward, you risk becoming disconnected from your own center, drifting in seas that were never yours to navigate. The ability to feel what others cannot is not just a trait, it's a sacred responsibility. And like all spiritual gifts, it requires wisdom. Seeing what others don't is not just about vision, it's about discernment. You are not here to absorb the pain of the world. You are here to understand it, to transmute it, and to remind others that even their heaviest emotions can be seen and survived. But first, you must learn to stand in your own light, even when shadows cling to your edges. That is the deeper meaning behind your sensitivity. It is not weakness. It is spiritual depth awakening in a world still learning how to feel. Absorbing what others suppress and noticing what they overlook places you in a strange in-between, neither fully anchored in the outer world nor entirely detached from the inner one. Not fully anchored in the surface world, yet not completely detached from it either. It creates a tension that stretches across your days, like walking between two realms, never quite belonging to either. You speak the language of spirit, but are expected to conform to the noise of society. This is the quiet ache that so many who see deeply carry, the ache of living between worlds. You can sense what others overlook, beauty in silence, pain behind routine, truth beneath performance. But instead of being welcomed, your insight often makes others uncomfortable. It disrupts the narrative they're trying to maintain, and so you learn to play a role, to shrink your knowing just enough to pass through daily life without confrontation. But every time you dilute your awareness for the sake of blending in, something inside you fades, not all at once, slowly, softly, until you wake up feeling disconnected, not from the world but from yourself. To navigate the visible world while being loyal to the invisible one takes immense courage. You're constantly adjusting, one self for your job, another for your family, a softer version for public places, and yet none of these faces feel like you. They're costumes, temporary, safe, but the soul does not bloom in safety, it expands in truth. And the longer you perform to survive, the more your spirit aches to be seen for what it actually is. Too deep for surface roles, too awake to sleepwalk through life. But this split you feel is not a sign of weakness. It is a spiritual initiation. Those who see beyond the veil must also learn to live in a world that fears the veil being lifted. You weren't born to fit cleanly into this system. You were born to be a bridge between the shallow and the sacred, between illusion and insight. Your struggle is not proof that something is wrong with you. It's confirmation that you're walking a path very few are called to. And if the ground sometimes feels shaky beneath your feet, it's only because you're standing at the threshold between dimensions of understanding most will never dare to enter. When you've spent your life navigating the space between worlds, seeing deeper, feeling more, living in the unspeakable, it can begin to feel like no one else is truly there with you. But then, something unexpected happens. You meet someone, maybe just once in a decade, and suddenly, no words are needed. Their presence speaks the same language your soul has been whispering all along. A glance, a pause, a shared silence. And in that moment you realize you are not the only one who sees. This kind of recognition is not of the mind, it's of the spirit. It bypasses logic, defies explanation, and settles into you like an ancient memory remembered in an instant. These meetings are rare because the kind of vision you carry is rare, but they are real, and when they happen, they affirm everything you've ever questioned. You aren't too much. You're not imagining things. There are others like you, others who see the invisible patterns, who feel what others won't speak, who walk through the world quietly tuned to the same divine frequency. But here's the truth. Once you've been seen in that way, fully, without defense or disguise, something shifts. You can no longer pretend in places where your soul isn't recognized. Ordinary conversations feel like noise. Shallow relationships begin to dissolve. Because once you've touched that level of resonance, your spirit refuses to starve again. Recognition rewires you. It becomes a compass, not to chase others, but to trust yourself. You begin to understand that the spiritual meaning behind seeing what others don't isn't just about vision. It's about remembering that your soul has never been alone in its sight. It was simply waiting for the echo. Once you've recognized another who sees as you do, the illusion of isolation begins to crumble. You realize the depth of your vision has always been pointing to something beyond connection, beyond understanding. It begins to feel less like a burden and more like a calling. But with that calling comes weight, a sacred responsibility. Because to see what others don't is not just a difference in perception, it's a difference in purpose. The pain you've carried, of being misunderstood, of sensing too much, of never quite fitting in, was never meaningless. It was initiation. The wound carved into you by life was not a defect, but a doorway. And through that doorway, something larger has always been waiting, something that can't be found in the ordinary path, something only revealed to those willing to carry what others can't even see. Your pain has not made you fragile. It has made you precise. It has turned your awareness into a surgical light, able to illuminate what remains hidden in others. You didn't ask to feel the world this deeply, but somewhere beyond words, you chose to. Because souls who carry vision aren't chosen at random. They are selected through fire, through silence, through years of learning how to breathe in a world that often makes it hard to exist. The very ache you've spent years trying to hide holds within it the seeds of what you're here to do. Not just observe the suffering of others, but understand it. Not just empathize, but guide. Your purpose is not always loud. It doesn't come with titles or recognition. Often, it looks like sitting with someone in their darkness, unafraid. Speaking a truth that disrupts the room, but awakens a heart. Creating something that carries light into spaces too long ruled by shadow. What you've endured has given you access to that light, not because you escaped the dark, but because you entered it willingly and came out changed. Others read books, you read energy, others follow paths, you forge them. And yet here's the paradox. The same depth that gives you vision is what makes it hard to share. You question your place, you wonder if you're qualified. But what qualifies you is not perfection, it's presence. Your willingness to live with eyes open, heart unguarded, soul unarmored. That is what makes your gift real. That is what turns vision into impact. So, understand this. The spiritual meaning behind seeing what others don't is not simply to notice, it is to transform. You are not here to walk quietly through life. You are here to wake it up, through your seeing, through your feeling, through your refusal to look away when the truth gets uncomfortable. Your pain was not the end of your story, it was the blueprint for your mission. And now, the question becomes, are you ready to live as who you were always meant to be? To see what others don't is not a flaw, it's a spiritual function, a divine appointment, a calling whispered into your bones long before you were born. The world trains people to ignore. You were born to notice. You carry vision where others carry distraction. You carry presence where others carry pretense. And maybe that path is lonelier, sharper, more fragile, but it is also more true. And truth, when lived fully, doesn't just set you free, it frees everyone who comes into contact with it. This is the spiritual meaning behind seeing what others don't. You are the eyes of a deeper world, living in this one. You are not here to fit in. You are here to remind others they were never meant to stay asleep.